What's good, Chiefs Kingdom? This is your guy Scott, joined by Bo and Nick. This is episode 4 of the Kingdom Cast. Thank you so much for joining in and watching. Do us a favor, click that like and subscribe button there at the bottom. Go ahead and turn those notifications on so you don't miss an episode. We're here coming to you back from after another tough week here. We'll get into all those games and everything. If you want to follow us on other social media sites, all of the socials are at the Kingdom Cast. So if you want to check us out there, we try to put out some reminders and some more content, and I've been putting some polls out on the Twitter thing, which is kind of fun, kind of gauging what everybody's feelings are. I put one out about the Chiefs and we're pretty worried maybe about the missing the playoffs or making the playoffs now. We'll talk about that here towards the end of the show. So check us out on all the socials. Thanks again for joining us live. Gentlemen, how are you guys doing this week? Bo?
I've been better. rough week, but I'm still hanging in there.
Black, so you're in mourning here. I see the Chiefs mourning attire.
I'm afraid, we're not going to see the Super Bowl team that we saw 2 years ago, but I'm still hopeful we can turn it around. A lot of football left. We'll get into this. Nick, how are you feeling?
Yeah, I mean, echo you. I've had better weeks. The good thing is I don't work with any Bills fans, right? But it's that was a rough game, and just doesn't seem to be like a lot of light at the end of the tunnel right now. We'll get into it. It's a long season, so there's a lot left, but the worst home loss in Andy Reid's tenure as a coach for the Chiefs. Patrick Mahomes' first multi-score loss in the regular season as a starter. Just not exactly how I thought I was going to be coming into the Tuesday show today.
Yeah, it was, Fred. We'll just get into it and start breaking it down here. They got whooped at home. The score looked a little bit worse than it was because they kind of got an also-ran touchdown there at the end that really put the game away, and it came with the Chiefs after they had an interception and had a chance. There's a 14-point swing. So, but the Bills handled the Chiefs pretty much the entire game. There were some flashes from the offense and defense. I think the Chiefs took the lead there actually at the beginning, first half a little bit. I think it was 10-7 at one point. Mm-hmm. Chiefs, that first half had that long 17-play drive. We've talked about that. We've talked about how that's kind of the way teams are defending us, and there's kind of this sense that, well, if you just take what they're giving you, that's going to be how the Chiefs are going to need to win. And if you're needing to count on 15, 16, 17 play drives, it just creates too much of an opportunity for a penalty or a drop. You get into a third down and coverage breaks down. There's just your margin for error with every play that you tack onto a drive just creates more chances for something to go wrong and makes it that much more harder to score, get in the end zone. You guys, just first half, it was ugly. The Chiefs were getting worked. The offense actually moved the ball, and like I said, they scored some points, but the defense was just non-existent in the first half. Josh Allen was throwing to guys that they didn't have Chiefs and defenders in the screen. I mean, he's winding up and he's throwing the ball, and the camera zooms down, and there's no red jersey in the shot. So what do you guys, Nick, first half, what were your takeaways? Defense was just as bad as it looked?
Yeah, probably worse, right? There's been a lot of talk about Patrick Mahomes and the way that he played in that game, and the season that he started off with. Going into half, we'd scored 13 points, right? It didn't feel like they'd scored anything though, because the Bills had given up 24. But averaging, if you multiply that by 2 halves, it's 26 points. That is not a low score in an NFL game, and to go in with that at half, down double digits, it's got to be wearing on the offense. I think that's what you're starting to see is they feel like that urgency that they have to do it, and they have to do it every time they touch the ball. And it's the fact, right? Where, you know, if they don't, then they're gonna go in, and all of a sudden they're gonna look up and they're gonna be down 2 scores. And we see it all the time where if they have to punt, and I feel it as a fan watching the game, I'm sure that you guys probably feel the same. If we're down a score and we punt, I'm like, dude, we're gonna have to figure out how to come back 2 scores in this game, because you just know that they're gonna give up a field goal or a touchdown on defense, that they just are not, you know, producing any sort of pass rush. They're not, you know, covering people. I don't know what the hell they're doing out there. I'm not a defensive coach, but it doesn't take a genius to look at that and say, you know, why the hell is there a guy wide open 60 yards down the field multiple times, right? So it's incredibly frustrating to watch. I think probably the funniest comment I saw before the game was somebody saying, you know, I'm so happy to, you know, watch our offense, but it's offset by the fact that I know that our defense is going to want to make me commit crimes. Like,
Yeah. Yeah. And to your point, even a little further, the game started out, the Chiefs go on that 17-play drive. Tyreek Hill has a drop there that would have been a first down, that would have made it 1st and goal. You get 3, and then boom, like that, the Bills get 7, and if it's sucking the wind, you know, the air out of your lungs watching at home, and the fans in the stands and the energy of the stadium, just imagine what it's doing to the offense and some of the other players on that defense.
Yeah, man. You can see the frustration in the offense, I feel like, when the defense plays that terribly. I feel like that's why our offense kind of struggled in this game, man. They could see how much they were going to be relied upon, and they'd come out and like just too much pressure on their shoulders or something. I don't know. I got a little complacent as a Chiefs fan when we go down 2 scores. I'm like, okay, we've been in this position, especially in the past 3 years. Ain't no thing. We got the kid. He Mr. Highlights, as I like to call him. Mm-hmm. He's fine. He'll bring us back. And he kind of had an average day. But again, I wouldn't put it on his shoulders by any means. That guy always steps up. I mean, we saw him. He was the leading rusher in this game, I believe. He had way more yards than our next 2 running backs. Granted, one got hurt, but still, like, I feel like that's one of our problems. But to go back to the defense side, I feel like we've been talking about this since we started this podcast. So we kind of knew going in that the defense wasn't going to be anything special. But I mean, gosh, I hate to point fingers. Dan Sorensen kind of blew it for us, man. 2 of those really long bombs to both the same guy, his guy, Knox. I mean, like Scott said, he wasn't even in the picture. If he was, it was just the barely tip top of his helmet coming in. And man, he blew some big plays for us, where normally he's the guy saving our ass. So that was a little frustrating to watch.
Yeah, I've been a pretty big Dan Sorensen defender. It's hard to defend him in that game. I wonder on that first one that was like in the middle of the field, that first deep one. I don't know if that was supposed to be Dan Sorensen's part of the field, though, because looked like he was playing the left side of the field. So maybe he's out of position. But Honey Badger's turning around, and Honey Badger really kind of has nobody around him, and he turns around like, what's going on?
Right.
And it looked like, you know, Matthew had let him loose. So I don't know if that was on Sorensen, but yeah, he definitely just, I mean, did not have like saying didn't have a good game is an understatement. He had a real shit game. And I just feel bad because he's had so many big plays for us in the past. And, you know, one of the things I heard this week that stuck with me is like, he's not that great of a player, but I feel sometimes like he's the only dude that's actually really trying and playing hard out there. So it's really tough to see him fail, because I feel like he always gives it his best. It's just sometimes his best just kind of sucks.
Right. And it sucks to be hypercritical of the guy too, because he has come through in the clutch so many times. But I mean, it was some pretty glaring mistakes this week. Yeah. And you're just like, wow.
Right.
I mean, that's pretty rare form for that guy.
Dan Sorensen, he's like every other player though. I know he was getting burned in that long touchdown to Knox that really was, you can't say it was the nail in the coffin because it's the first half, but It felt like a nail in the coffin because the Chiefs go for it on 4th down. They don't get it. And then, boom, right before the half, you couldn't even get a stop and get us into halftime without the Bills adding to the score. He turned his guy loose. He should be able to cover Dawson. I don't know what he was doing, thinking there with Knox, letting him go. But I'm going to stick up for Dan Sorensen a little bit. He's not a coverage safety. And on that one big play that was down the middle of the field, that was Stephon Diggs. Why is Dan Sorensen trying to cover Stephon Diggs one-on-one? I'm sorry. That's just Dan Sorensen. Hell, there's 20 or 30 corners in this league that can't cover Stephon Diggs. Why is Dan Sorensen responsible for – he actually saved it from being a touchdown by catching up to the guy. The ball was underthrown, knowing there was a lot of Josh Allen praise, and he had a fine game, but he was – I mean, hell, he was throwing to – it looked like he was doing warm-ups before the game where they're out there and they're just, airing the ball out, and the receivers are lining up and they're just running one at a time, wide open down the middle of the field. I mean, that's what it looked like. Who couldn't have made those throws? That pass is actually a little underthrown, and Dan Sorensen hustled and made the tackle and kept him short of the end zone. Didn't matter because the defense just capitulated and wilted on the very next play and gave it up anyway. So Dan Sorensen, I don't know. Is it time for him to go? It's definitely not time for him to be in coverage one-on-one with wide receivers.
Right.
Yeah.
I've always looked at him. I've always called him like a super linebacker. He's best down in the box and running. And you've seen him blow up Ryan Tannehill. You've seen him tackle Derrick Henry. The guy's he's a tough dude. He's big. He's strong. He's a physical guy. He, like Nick was saying, you always feel like he's the one guy that's really trying hard. That dude's going to throw his body out there with reckless abandon every time to try to make the play. He's not always going to make the play. And I feel like that's maybe what's given him the edge over some of these other guys at that position, why maybe you're not seeing a Thornhill or a Watts. They're different type players, and you're going to get 100% effort out of Dan. So that like I said, I feel that's part of the reason he's still on the field. But after this game, you get exposed as badly as he did. I don't see how he continues to get the number of snaps that he's been getting. Whether it's for better or for worse, you got to think that you're going to see some Juan Thornhill. Everybody, the fan base is clamoring for him. He was a high draft pick. Sorensen has looked bad here, or mediocre at best, albeit being played out of position in some of these games. So, that first half was it just felt like the game was over at halftime, and that's incredible to say when you've got a guy like Patrick Mahomes that's brought the team back as many times as he has. So, disappointing first half. You're at home, you got the momentum, the stadium, the crowd is into it and they're rocking, and you that first drive, like I said a little bit ago, you drive the ball 17 plays and get 3 points, and then the other team gets the ball and they're in the end zone right away.
In 6, yep.
I mean, you just totally demoralizes the team. I don't care who you are. It's got to demoralize you. You wonder maybe there's some finger pointing stuff going on like that, but
to continue your point, we've been just kind of beating a dead horse here about the defense, but it was literally non-existent, just Swiss cheese, so many holes everywhere. Complete amateurs could have made a lot of those throws that Josh Allen did. I'm not saying Josh Allen's a complete amateur. Like you said, he had a great game. But we also knew that coming in. We thought all three of us thought that this was going to be a high-scoring game by both sides, right? Which it almost was. Our team just got plagued by turnovers for some reason. Those are some of the most unfortunate turnovers I've ever seen. Not to mention some of the worst officiating I think I've ever seen. I know I'm always harsh on the refs, man, but I don't know if you guys could hear it in Chris Collinsworth and Al Michaels' voices. They were like, really? Come on.
They were distraught over that. Yeah.
They're talking about how it looks like Flag Day out here, how the refs just need to calm down. I mean, I hear the comment, oh, another flag. Go figure, right? So I know it's not just me, a super biased Chiefs fan, thinking oh man, the refs are screwing us here. But I mean, even the Bills had multiple favorable bad calls. And I still got to agree that even though that they helped us in the long run, the officiating was just terrible. So many
Right.
blown calls that are just affecting drives. They're affecting scores, then ultimately affecting the outcome of the game. It's getting so frustrating. And it was by the end of the first half that Chris Collinsworth and Al Michaels were frustrated by it. They're like, good Lord, there's already been so many penalties. I think there were 17 total penalties throughout the game for 160 yards almost.
Yeah, accepted, right?
Yeah, exactly. Not to mention all the ones that were called back or
declined.
Yeah, we can talk more about that here in a little bit. Refs in particular, some of the plays and other calls and other plays I've seen around the league too. They're equally as bad. I mean, yeah. Anyway, so Chiefs go in halftime. There's the long thunder delay, which I don't understand these weather delays. This is football, right? This isn't baseball. This isn't basketball. I don't, there's some lightning in the area. I guess it's litigation world that we live in. People are worried about it. I got struck by lightning at the Chiefs game. They should, you're still in the stadium. So that they had the lengthy, and there was some talk there, and the announcers were saying about, could this help the momentum switch back to the Chiefs or cool the Bills off or whatever? And the second half finally starts after an hour and a half delay. And the defense actually, God bless them, made a couple of stops there. And then the Chiefs get the ball and can't do anything with it. Patrick Mahomes has the interception there, the pick six, which was not his fault at all. The ball goes right through Tyreek Hill's hands.
Yeah.
That really just was a crusher coming out after it looked like maybe the defense had made some adjustments, maybe figured some things out, got the ball back to the offense a couple times, stopped the bleeding a bit. Then the offense really can't do much about it. Then you get the defensive score from the Bills. And then it was pretty much game over at that point. Really uneventful second half. There was another fluke play where the defensive lineman reached out and tipped the pass, which I'm not gonna blame Patrick for that play. The right tackle, that is a timing play. He catches the snap and he turns right away and throws it to the receiver out in the flat there, out by the numbers. He's not looking to see if he's covered. He's not looking to see if it's open, because that throw happens within 1 second of the ball being snapped, and the tackle couldn't even get in the way of the defensive end for less than a second to keep him to where he can get his arm in the passing lane and break it up. So that was almost the icing on the cake. We talked about the bad calls with the penalties. Josh Allen, they're in third down. He throws a terrible, ill-advised pass that got intercepted, gets taken away. At that point, it was 11. The Chiefs had scored a touchdown. If you get the ball back there and you can get another touchdown, now you've made it a 4-point game. Maybe you put some pressure on the Bills at that point. And it's weird. Like I said, the defense had gotten a couple stops. Maybe they can get one more stop, but wasn't to be. Bills go down, score a touchdown. Nick, what did you see in that second half that kind of stood out to you?
Too little, too late was really what I saw. It's like the defense came out and had some stops. They were looking really aggressive there right up until that interception got overturned, and then it's like, the clock struck midnight, and the carriage turned back into a pumpkin, and I don't know what it is. It's like they looked like they finally looked like they gave a shit about the game. Really is what I saw. It's like they finally were flying around. They were finally aggressively trying to, get to the quarterback. Credit to them. The offense only scored 7 points in the second half, but, Scott and I talked about this earlier. The unfortunate thing is that, they also gave up 24 points in the first half. So some of that is probably some strategy and trying to burn clock more than, necessarily trying to score points when you're up a couple of scores. You're trying to, just get to zeros on the clock. So it was just, too little, too late. Patrick is, trying to do everything that he can. I think probably trying to force the ball a little bit. That's why you probably saw some of those go into the dirt. Not his best game, but again, he's not the reason that we're losing. I mean, I don't think we've won a game this year if we have an average quarterback. I mean, I think that this is probably the way they've been playing with the defense giving up historic amounts of points, probably a 2 to 4 win team.
Yeah, no, they don't have a win right now without Patrick Mahomes.
Yeah, I agree. Historically bad defense. That's what I took away from this game. And I think the stats back me up. I think we have the worst defense in the NFL statistically since the 1950s Colts. We're just not doing anything to stop any aspect of any attack. It's oh man, it's terrible to watch. It's frustrating to watch that they're just doing, or as Nick pointed out a couple episodes, they're just underperforming so badly, and it's just frustrating to watch people do that. One thing that stood out to me though was the front four. I didn't see any rush or like threat of Josh Allen getting tackled or sacked. He had all day to stand in the pocket, throw it wherever he wanted to, let players get 20, 30, 40 yards down the field. He could run on us at will. I just, something's got to give at some point. You can't keep running the same four guys up front and expect different results. I mean, everybody, they're game planning for us specifically. Everybody is like, they know what we do, what we like to run, where we like to block, who blocks, and they're doing a hell of a job game planning against us so far. But like Nick said, the offense to me looked incredible. They might be trying to do too much, but I still feel like we have the best offense in NFL with the plays they come up with. The players that are running those plays are great. I was way off on my prediction on how many catches Josh Gordon would get, but the couple that he did have looked really promising, man. It was scramble plays, which I think we should try to intentionally run more of to get guys open and give Patrick a little bit more time. But I'm really liking the offense still. I just, like Andy Reid said, we just need to get both sides of the ball playing together at the same time.
Yeah, the offense look that you always hear them playing tight. You want to play loose and free. The offense definitely, especially in that second half, looked like they were playing tight. And who could blame them after the way the defense played that first half? That you're looking at, oh well, they're on pace for 48. We got to get 50, and we're at 13 or so. They definitely frustrating.
But I feel like as like a coach or a play caller, you got to recognize like that's the situation happening. Run a bootleg, an RPO option, get Patrick Mahomes mobile, get the offense mixed up with their blocking assignments. Yeah. Mix things up a little bit. Like, I don't know, just don't sit there and try to force a mobile quarterback to be a pocket passer. I don't think that's the strategy to go with.
Right.
Especially not when you can't keep the guys from the edge from basically coming around the edge every single play.
Every single play.
Yeah.
Yeah. So in the end, it ultimately ends up being defeat for the Chiefs. Disappointing loss to have a game against who many people would consider, especially now, the number one threat to the Chiefs in their defense of the AFC Championship. To have that game at home, to have it in prime time, and then to just lay a dud and get your ass kicked, basically. It's definitely disappointing. It's a frustrating game. So, some more things. We talk about turnovers. The Chiefs, they had 4 more turnovers in this game. I saw a stat that said the Chiefs have had 11 turnovers on offense in the last 13 quarters and have gotten 0 turnovers on defense.
Wow.
That's just you. I don't care how good you are. The Chiefs have gotten away with this too, played with fire and not got burned in the past, losing the turnover battle. They have not been a turnover-prone team, but they've been able to make these mistakes, and it didn't really haunt them. And now it feels like that pendulum has swung back the other way, and every single mistake that they make just turns into another touchdown for the opponent. And they just can't, they create the mountain of mistakes, and they can't climb it now. So
Yeah.
that's really, to me, is going to be because I don't think you're going to go out and get defense right now. There's not a Pro Bowl safety or pass rusher sitting on their couch waiting for you to call them at this point in the season.
Yeah.
It's just not there. You might be able to find somebody and poach them off a practice squad, but a lot of those guys are going to be protected by other teams. So that's not very good chance of something like that happening. So turnovers are, I feel, where the Chiefs, if they're going to get this season turned around and start winning and get on a winning streak, which they need to do, we'll talk about that here in a little bit, to make the playoffs, I feel like that is something that's in their control the most that they can do. Stop turning the ball over and maybe sell out for a little bit more turnovers. Try to not punch. We've seen other teams where they're punching and swatting and ripping at every ball instead of trying to make the tackle. Try to be more opportunistic. Try to get stops that way, because they're not just – it looks like they're just not going to line up and stop anybody.
Mm-hmm.
Nick, what are your thoughts? Turnovers hurting Chiefs. You think there's something they can do? You think that gets better?
Yeah, I think that we've probably had, some time here where we, like you said, playing with fire, where there have been some balls that bounced our way, right? Some stuff that got dropped, or some, fumbles that went out of bounds type stuff. And now it's swinging back the other way a little bit, where, I don't know what the odds are of a guy reaching out and batting an NFL pass in a way that it goes straight up in the air, that he can then catch it himself. I mean, you don't see that more than a couple of times a season. Incredible play by that guy. So credit to him for making it, right? That was just a good play. The ball's not going to go through. I feel like I jinxed Tyreek Hill. Like, the ball's not going to go through Tyreek Hill's hands like that very often, especially right into a defender's hands for a pick six, right? But this is like, the Yogi Berra would say, I'm having deja vu all over again, because like we already talked about this during the Chargers game, right?
Yeah.
I think the long and the short of it is that winning, absolves all sins, as they say. And the winning of the Chiefs has allowed them and the coaching staff to overlook some things that really are not that excusable at an NFL level. And I love Big Red. I don't want him to go anywhere. But how many games have we heard him go up there and talk about, penalties, and we got to clean some of that stuff up, and, talk about some kind of real basic things, right, that players need to do, ball security. And I just think that there seems to be some kind of lack of focus on doing the little things right day in and day out. And at the end of the season, when you talk about football being a game of inches, all that stuff adds up to winning the Baltimore game instead of fumbling it, winning the Chargers game instead of, throwing that INT, or, not blowing a couple coverages against the Bills and making it a tighter game, and we may be able to come out with a win there. So we're only a few plays away, but the problem is that I don't see any sense of urgency from them to correct those things. And you're right, Scott, we're not going to get new people on defense. We got to go with the guys that we got. But these are all NFL level players. And what I see out there is just uninspired play from people that are not willing to throw their bodies out there and really just like hit people, intimidate people, knock the shit out of somebody, and let them know that you're not going to do that next time, right? You're not going to run up the middle on us as a quarterback for 8 yards for a touchdown. Next time you come up the middle, I'm going to put you on your ass, and you're going to think about it. You're going to make a business decision next time, right? Like, those are the things that like win on defense. Marty Schottenheimer, he said run defense is all about attitude, right? It's all about like, you're not going to do it. I'm going to tackle you. I'm going to get my arms around you. I'm going to hit you hard. And, you start to sow that doubt in the minds of the other team. And you started to see a little bit of that spark in the second half towards the end there. The problem is that we were already down 3 scores. And, like, if we could just play like that to start, and continue that, like, we're going to be fine. We have all the people. we have good coaches. We've got Super Bowl winning coaches. Like, I know people are mad at Spags, and I'm pissed off at Spags too. But the guy's won Super Bowls as a defensive coordinator with 2 different teams. Like, he knows what he's doing. He's just got to figure out why this group isn't responding and doing the things that they need to. They need to make adjustments. And I think that once you see that come around, you'll see the offense start to feel like they have a little bit more breathing room, and they won't be playing so tight. So,
not to repeat too much of what you guys just said, but yeah, I feel like the turnovers are an easy fix, or at least, I mean, in the simple fact that the ones that we've had, I feel like have just been so flukish. I don't even know if flukish is a word, but just so rare in the way that they're actually happening. Just freak athletic plays by the defense, or just, tip passes where normally receivers catch them. I mean, how many of these turnovers, if they don't happen, we win the game? You know what I mean? Like, most of these games, if we just eliminate turnovers, that's fine. I mean, the Bills don't go up on us by 2. The Ravens don't. I mean, the Chargers don't. I just feel like we're just plagued by them. That's why I put that little banner up. Just
Right.
cursed. I mean, they're just so odd. I mean, even that bad snap that Mahomes was gonna get, and then the guy backs up into the ball and kicks it 10 yards behind him, and just, oh man, it's just a comedy of errors with these turnovers. That's just really our Achilles heel and our kryptonite right now. I just see it being a simple fix, or I mean, just like ball security. I mean, that's pretty much basic football. Just see more of this instead of this, and I think we'll be okay. But that game too was also weird. I mean, the rain was nuts, kind of causing inclement conditions. So a lot of those turnovers, kind of are weather related, but that's no excuse for us not getting them. But again, it's just one of those plays. Like, the Chiefs just, like, in the red zone, going for a touchdown, defender bats it to himself. How many times have we seen that specifically as the Chiefs? Oh man, it's just frustrating to watch that. But I think it's an easy fix. And like I said before, we fix that, we start winning games.
The Chiefs are sitting at 2-3 right now. And even if they lose the turnover battle in the Chargers game by 1 or 2, if they only turn the ball over once or twice, they probably win that game. And then the Ravens game, the fumble there at the end by Clyde, that was the game.
Yep.
So that's really the difference between 4-1 and tied for first place in the division, or maybe sitting alone in first place in the division, because you'd have a win over the Chargers, so you would be in first place. And sitting here at 2-3 in last place in the division, and you're not hitting the panic button yet, but you're looking for it right now. You're
looking around, seeing where it's at.
You're trying to locate it. So turnovers, that's really, to me, is the story of the season. Mm-hmm. And if the Chiefs want to turn this thing around and play like the team that they are and that they're capable of being, they got to get the turnovers fixed. So
right, and even with how much we rag on the defense, right? Like, I mean, they're not great by any measurable stat out there, but I mean, eliminate the turnovers, we're still winning those games even with a shit defense.
Yeah, no doubt about that.
We have been unlucky, but I mean, like, one of the things my dad always says is, the harder I work, the luckier I get. Right. And so the more effort you put into it, the better position you put yourself into for good things to happen to you. And, I just wonder if some of this was the team got cocky. They're like, it's like a given. We're going to be in the Super Bowl. Maybe we're going out, Patrick Mahomes is like at concerts, and I'm not blaming Patrick Mahomes. Right. But maybe their focus isn't 100% where it was, and they've lost a little bit of that edge, and it doesn't take a lot in the NFL before you realize that, like, all these other teams that have been like looking at you as the team that they're measuring themselves against. That's what the Bills coach said, right? They announced on the broadcast, the Chiefs are the measuring stick, right? Because they're the ones that sent us home in the AFC Championship. They weren't complacent, right? They haven't been taking Friday nights off. They've been sitting there, looking at film and working on, how they're not going to turn the ball over 4 times in a rain game and all those things. And so, I understand that some of these things seem fluky, right? But like, we've seen it enough times now this season that it's like, at what point does it cease to be fluky, and it's just like, this is just who they are. So, but to your point, Bo, it's
Sure.
easy to turn around. I mean, it just takes focus on the fundamentals and doing the right things. So,
Sure. Let's when we want to talk about Patrick Mahomes here a little more in detail. The guy is getting a lot of criticism from fans who, to be quite honest, to me sound like spoiled, rotten kids that have always gotten everything they wanted, and now mom and dad are saying no to him every once in a while. Patrick Mahomes is not the problem.
No.
Mo just had a graphic up there. He was the leading rusher on the team. He's obviously the leading passer. The dude, he had 3 turnovers in this game, technically, right? One was off a drop. That's not his fault. He hit the receiver in the hands. The receiver didn't do his job.
right.
He had the other interception we talked about where the defensive end for the Bills makes a nice play, reaches out, deflects the pass, it goes up, hangs in the air forever. Almost, it looked like it defied physics for how long it sat there and just went end over end up in the air before it came down, and the guy got underneath it, caught it. The fumble, yeah, that's on him. But at the same time,
Maybe
it's raining, it's wet. He's down 2 scores with next to no time remaining. He's trying to, he's in a hurry. He's playing even tighter now than he might have been playing earlier in the game. If you look at his numbers, he's leading the league in touchdown passes. He's ahead of or right about the same after the 5th game of this season as he was in the 5th game last season when the Chiefs started 5-0 and were the cream of the crop in the in the AFC and the team to beat. And people just the guy, they expect him because he's been so good that he just walks on water, and he's never going to make a mistake. Out of his 6 interceptions this year, I could probably point to 2.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say, too.
You could say were his fault. The one against the Ravens where he was getting sacked and he just kind of half-ass shovel past it to nobody, that was a terrible play. But you look at these other ones, 2 of the interceptions are from drops. One of them was from where he was trying to throw the ball to Travis Kelce at the end of the game, and Kelce hesitated it, and then before he went to the outside, the numbers where the pass was thrown. If he doesn't do that, I think he gets to where the ball was thrown and at least breaks it up. It's not an interception. That's not necessarily his fault. The dude picks up first downs on 3rd and long all the time. How many times have you seen that guy on a 3rd and 12 rush for 13 yards and keep the drive alive? This team is 0-5.
Right? Yeah.
This team is 0-5 without Patrick Mahomes, and they're losing every game 35-10. Just the idea that he has had a slow start to the season, or he's been figured out, or some of these other quarterbacks in the league are catching up to him. Going into that Bills game, he was dominating Josh Allen in every major, statistical category that really matters when it comes to yards per attempt, touchdowns, completion percentage. He's not as good of a rusher as Josh Allen, but the guy can run, and he makes plays, and he extends plays. He keeps drives alive. The dude is unbelievable. He's a freak. He's still the best quarterback in the league, and I continue to see this narrative like, oh, his slow start has really hurt the Chiefs, and is part of the reason they're sitting at 2-3. Yeah, he's the reason we're 2-3, all right. Because without him, our ass would be 0-5.
Yeah, a bad day for Patrick Mahomes looks like a good day for a lot of the other quarterbacks in this league, right? So, I feel like a lot of the NFL pundits are a little hypercritical, maybe even myself. I mean, he throws a couple into the dirt and everybody gets upset, like, oh, he's doing terrible this year. I'm like, no, he's not. He's dropping balls on dimes, putting them in windows nobody else can get to. He's still creative with underhand passes, sidearm passes, just the most competitive quarterback I see on the field, maybe outside of Lamar Jackson.
Dude, how about that pass to Josh Gordon?
Yeah.
Right.
I was sitting there yelling, throw it away. He's like, oh, I'm not throwing it away. I'm throwing it to that guy. And just whips the ball. Like, Josh Gordon has guys around him. I mean, as he's going out of bounds, I mean, how many times have we seen that, right? Like Scott, I mean, he had that long run for a first down, a third down, and was it 10 or 12? And I mean, he's diving as he goes out of bounds and just gets there. Like, yeah, he's not the problem. And I mean, I don't know. I'm pretty active on NFL subreddit and Chiefs subreddits, and during the game thread, somebody was complaining about Patrick Mahomes and saying he's just not that good anymore, and the Chiefs suck. And I was just like, told him like, feel free to start like following another team anytime, like, because if you're complaining about Patrick Mahomes, and then like, yeah, I don't know, like you just must be like a casual fan, because yeah, he hasn't been perfect this year, but nobody's been perfect this year. If the Bills had lost, they'd be talking about that bad interception that Josh Allen threw, if that didn't get overturned, and why the hell is he running backwards for all those yards out of field goal range, blowing points there. Like, that's what I say. Like, when you win, like, people don't see those things aren't as amplified, right? And I don't know. It really does piss me off, because
No, yeah,
like,
it more than pisses me off. If your opinion, and I see we got 4 or 5 viewers here live, if you want to send us a comment, we'd love to post it up there and talk about it. Let us know what you think about Patrick Mahomes this year. People just need to stop and think before they tweet, and they need to stop and think before they post, because I'm going to tell you right now, if you want to say that Patrick Mahomes has come back to earth, or he's not as good as he used to be, and you want to bag on Patrick, you're asking to get tarred and feathered and ran out of the kingdom real quick. It's fucking crazy to think that people could actually watch this team and think that Patrick freaking Mahomes is part of the problem and not as good as he used to be, and figured out. Here's a newsflash for you, and I got back and forth with some people online about this. If Brett Veach called the Buffalo Bills general manager tomorrow and said, hey, I'll trade you Patrick for Josh straight up, they would make that trade in a fucking second. Same with Lamar Jackson. Same with Justin Herbert. Every one of these GMs in this league would trade Patrick Mahomes for their guy in a second. They'd be trying to get the trade finalized and signed before Brett Veach got off whatever mind-altering substance he was on and came to his damn senses.
Can we record the call and count that as a letter of intent?
No, it's ridiculous. It's just absolutely uncalled for, ignorant. People don't know and there is a lot of that here, though. People have come lately and they're used to the winning, and this is a little bit off topic for the show, but it was like the Royals when they went to back-to-back World Series there for a couple of years, and you started seeing all the Royals gear. People didn't know what the hell they were talking about. So if you're one of these new people that's come to, I'm going to do you a little help. Scott's going to give you some advice here. Just stop talking shit about Patrick Mahomes. You look like a dumbass, okay? Just stop.
Dude,
please.
Watching people rag on Patrick Mahomes reminds me, it was like 4 or 5 years ago. I was at work on a project. I ran into a Giants fan, and he was trying to convince me that Tom Brady sucked. And like, I had to tell him, like, okay, man, you clearly don't know what you're talking about. I'm not a Tom Brady fan, but like, you can't sit here and say he sucks. The guy is going to be the GOAT when it's all said and done. Well, Patrick's going to pass him.
Right.
I mean, like, to make bold, absolute statements like that, it just kind of lets me know, like, oh, okay, you have no idea what you're talking about, because there isn't a like Scott said, a GM or a team in this league that wouldn't take him at the drop of a hat. Like, he's just the best player in football, hands down.
And Jimmy Johnson on live television saying that he would take Justin Herbert over Patrick Mahomes if they were starting the league over and he had the first overall pick. So, somebody check on Jimmy, man. Get him some help. The dude he's got some sort of mental thing. I don't know if he needs to be in an old folks home or what. That is just – Justin Herbert's got a losing record as a starting quarterback still. Justin Herbert isn't rewriting the record books at the quarterback position. How many times do you see, Patrick Mahomes just set the record for most touchdown passes in a quarterback's first 50 games, and this is only his 47th game. The dude is he is going to own every major record in the NFL when it's all said and done. We've all heard this saying before, don't be that guy. friends don't let friends drink and drive. Well, friends don't let friends talk shit about Patrick Mahomes and post crap about him online. So just don't be that guy. Okay, let's just stop. We got plenty of other things that you can criticize and that we can whine and bitch about, and it not Patrick Mahomes.
Yeah, exactly. He is definitely not the problem. But yeah, I don't know if you guys happen to notice our injury report coming out of this game. We do have some problems facing us here fairly soon. We saw Tyreek Hill got a little knee injury. They say it's not too bad. CEH has a knee injury, saying it's a little bit more bad, but just a sprained MCL, I think. So he's out just 3 weeks, I think, was the time slot there. Chris Jones, I didn't look today. I'm not sure if he practiced or not. We have a couple more defensive guys that look like they got hurt. Are these injuries going to be significant going forward? I mean, do we really need CEH as our number one? Should we try other guys? Is it as bad as I think it is? What are you guys thinking?
I'm pissed off that Chris Jones didn't play in that last game. I mean, I think that I don't think that there's an excuse for that. It's his wrist, and I understand that you don't want to, but the Washington game is probably the game where you try to get that calm down and rest and don't play. I don't know if that's his call or somebody else's, but we're paying Chris Jones way too much money to not be there for that game. When we talked about it before, like that's more than likely the one seed bye out the window, right? It's gone. I mean, it's not totally gone, right? There's a long season, lots could happen. People can get injured, things. But the Bills, I don't know if you saw their schedule that they flashed up on the screen. Like they've got like a really favorable schedule for the next, several weeks at least. So I'm pretty pissed that Chris Jones didn't play, to be honest. CEH, he
just
had
real quick, Nick. Real quick. Joe Thuney broke his hand in the first half of that. I think the first quarter of that game, and played the entire rest of the game with a broken hand. So Chris Jones, get your ass in there.
Yeah.
Thuney's the other guy I was looking for.
CEH. Yeah, CEH, sprained knee. I mean, I don't wish anybody to get injured. That's not good. He's going to be out for several weeks. It's unfortunate. Like, I mean, it's like two years in a row now that he's had some injury issues too. So, we talked about his productivity and production on the field. I know he had a couple of good games this year, but he was a non-factor in the Bills game before he got injured. And so I wish him a speedy recovery, but I don't know. I mean, I look at him as like better than, Williams, but not like immeasurably better, right? It's not like you're going from, Nick Chubb down to Williams. It's more like a 1A, 1B situation. I think that Williams is a good back if we can get some good run blocking going, and he can get us the 4 to 5 yards of carry that we're looking for. So less significant, but you definitely never, want your number one running back hurt. So that's definitely not good. Did you say is Thuney out?
I don't know. That they said they think that maybe he can play with the cast. He was under further evaluation by the medical staff and the team there. So we'll find out more about him as the week goes on, and whether, it's going to depend a lot on how he practices. If you see him being, limited or out of practice, Andy Reid doesn't like to play guys that don't practice on Wednesdays or Thursdays and Fridays. So that'll be interesting to see. Just to kind of piggyback off what you were talking about with Clyde Edwards, the injury there. Anybody who knows me knows I'm not the biggest Clyde fan. I never want to see anybody get hurt. Right. That's brutal. Even opponents. I hate to see opponents' players get hurt. But I don't think the drop off is that much. And if you play fantasy football, blow that free agent budget on Darrell Williams. I still think that he's got more speed and more explosiveness than Clyde does. I'm sorry. I just don't see Clyde. It's unfortunate because the first time he had a play that was more than 2 yards, it seemed like he gets hurt. And he had a couple back-to-back 100-yard games. So I think you saw that was the way other teams were defending us, and the Eagles are one of the worst before San Diego passed them after this week against the Browns, actually. We're the worst running defense in the NFL. That was a little bit of fool's gold. He took advantage of a weaker opponent, but you just see him all the time. We've talked about that. He leaves yards on the end of runs all the time. I don't think he has the explosiveness. I'm interested to see what that backfield looks like with Darrell Williams and Jerick McKinnon getting some more touches. McKinnon looks like he can flash. I do another show with some guys, and most of them are 49ers fans, and they call him tired legs. Because,
Yeah, I saw that.
Yeah, because he had a couple bad games and whatever, and he was out for some snaps, and they asked him when he was with the 49ers, I got tired legs. And they really they're never going to live that down with him. So, but he looks like he's got some explosiveness and looks like he can catch the ball, maybe has a little bit more speed. We need, and this is getting a little off topic with injuries, but just real quick. If other teams are going to guard us with 2 deep safeties and drop 6 or 7 guys into coverage, we need to run the ball, but we need to be getting 10, 15, 20-yard runs.
Yeah.
We don't need to be having these 12, 13-play drives where it's 3 or 4 yards in a cloud of dust. If they're putting that much – if they're that scared of the passing game and the deep threat, there's 10 and 15 and 20-yard runs there or more. The Ravens did that to us in the game in that week. I think it was week 3 when we played them. They had a couple drives where it was all runs, and it was 75 yards, 4 or 5 plays, all runs. That's what we need to do. We need to do that to get teams to stop putting these guys deep, make them respect the run, make them realize, they can score almost as fast running the ball now as they were passing it. We've got to adjust. We can't sit back here in this cloud defense and cover 2 or whatever it's called. So I think perhaps if McKinnon and Williams get a chance with this injury, maybe we see that. I wish Clyde a speedy recovery. I hope he's doing okay. Injuries suck for anybody.
Yeah.
But the other injury too, Tyreek Hill came out of that with a little bit of a knee, and Travis Kelce had what they're calling a stinger. Damn to me if that didn't look like a concussion hit. That dude came in and just blew him up in the helmet.
Yeah.
That guy should be suspended. He should get more than a fine. The ball was already past him, and you could see the defender knew the ball was already past him, and he just took a cheap shot right to his head. You want to talk about player safety as a league? That play there, the guy needs to be losing more than a paycheck. He needs to take more than a hit in the wallet. He needs to take a hit in the stat sheet and sit for a game or 2. That was uncalled for. If this team loses Tyreek Hill or Travis Kelce for any extended period of time, we are in deep, deep trouble.
I mean, the Bills, I noticed, were a bunch of cheap shotters. Didn't really like the way they were playing. I saw too many hits out of bounds and all that stuff.
Diving on Mahomes' head after he slid.
Right. Yeah. Late hits, low hits, just cheap shots all around. But going back to the running back situation, I've always been a fan of McKinnon since he was in San Francisco. I thought he did well. I know he had that little tired legs quote, and everybody didn't like him from that. But, hey, man, I can only imagine how hard those guys work. And probably sometimes your legs get a little tired, man. I mean, I wouldn't know, but I'm excited too. What I'm excited about McKinnon is he offers that catching option as a receiver. I know CEH kind of was, but I think we're going to see it more now kind of be the go-to move, a little check down to the running back, whoever's flying out on the side. If they're only going to give us 10 yards, we should just take it every single time until they're not going to want to give it to us. It's fascinating how that's a hard concept in football. Like, how disciplined can you be? Can you take 8 yards at a time? Like, you should be. Like, that's like I don't mind the long plays as long as they are the long drives, as long as they end up in 6 points. I hate it when we like what we had 17 plays and he gets you 3. I mean, if you're going to do all that dink and dunk stuff and run slants and beat the cover 2 that way, at least, finish it. But
let's do a 10-play drive with 7 yards of play, right? 7.5 yards of play as opposed to, 4 yards of play.
Exactly.
What do you guys? We still have that Gore guy on our practice squad.
He got promoted. I saw that not maybe an hour or two before we came on here.
Okay.
Nice.
Yeah. So I was kind of scratching my head that we cut him because I know it's preseason, but damn, that guy had some pretty long runs for touchdowns, and he like was running through people. So, and again, maybe it's just because he was against second and third string guys, but I don't know. I thought that guy looked like he had some juice in the tank, to be honest.
Going to Tyreek Hill, though, I think I brought it up last podcast where I noticed that he kind of came up lame on a couple catches during the Chargers game. And I was just like, he didn't look like he was 100%, or maybe it was the Ravens, but I noticed it earlier. And I think he might be downplaying it a little bit, and that might be why he's not as effective this year. I mean, it's kind of like a botched little theory that I have, but
Yeah.
I've noticed him like not running out runs and like kind of not limping, but like I said, just coming up a little lame for a cheetah.
Kind of like how Patrick Mahomes always looks like he's like hurts when he walks.
Looks like he runs on his tiptoes.
Yeah. Yeah, Tyreek Hill, I think he was battling something there for a week. He had a couple of slow weeks, and then he came back and blew up in the Philadelphia game and was saying, I'm back. So maybe he's got something there. The thing you worry about with him, and we've talked about him, he's not just a speed guy. He can do a lot of things well, but his most dangerous weapon is his speed. And if he's got a lingering knee injury, that's going to limit him and what he's able to do. So let's just hope those two guys, not like I said, not that I want anybody else to be hurt, but we really can't ill afford to lose those two guys. Those are the cornerstones, right? Patrick and Travis and Tyreek. Those guys, just to say they're irreplaceable is not some revelation. Like I'm not getting that's not hard hitting analysis. So yeah, that's going to be tough.
Do you guys think Travis Kelce clears concussion protocol? Because I'm going to go ahead and say that he does. I watched Devontae Adams get knocked out on the field snoring, and he came back in the game 4 plays later. So I don't think concussion protocol is as tough as it once was.
They came out afterwards, after the game the next day, and said it was a stinger.
Yeah.
So that was the same thing they said Patrick Mahomes had in that playoff game against the Browns last year.
No, right, when he got rocked.
That he got the stinger. So we'll see. But yeah, no, it's definitely some significant injuries. What do we think are how are you guys feeling about the playoffs? I put a poll out there on the Twitter account at the Kingdom Cast. It only got 13 or 14 or 15 votes. So maybe we need to start doing mail-in voting for the polls. I don't know.
Try to get 180,000 overnight.
Try to get a bigger sample size. Yeah. Maybe start mailing out ballots or something and see if we can get some more votes that way. But it was like 75% of the people said, yeah, there's a fear that we could miss the playoffs. I was doing the math, and I talked about this with Nick just last night. The Chiefs, so it's a 17-game season. And do you guys think what's the worst record you think you can have and make the playoffs this year out of 17 games? 11-6? 10-7?
Like the last wild card spot, you mean?
Yeah, the last wild card spot.
7 seed, probably 11-6.
Yeah, I'm saying 10, 11 wins.
Yeah. So let's say it's 11. Let's set the bar high just to be conservative. That means the Chiefs got to go 9-3 the rest of the way. Okay. They've already lost 3 of their first 5. Now, granted, the schedule gets easier, but they've got a game against the Packers. They've got another road game against the Chargers. They've got a game at home against the Cowboys, who looks like their offense could be a real problem for this defense. They've got 2 games against the Raiders, it looks like they're coming back down to earth now, and they've got major distractions going on. They lost to the Bears this week. So it looks like they're coming back to earth a little bit. But they beat the Chiefs at Arrowhead last year, and really it took a Travis Kelce last-minute touchdown last year in the second game in Las Vegas to win that game. You only got 3 left with that remaining schedule. Bo, how worried are you about playoffs?
You know, I do think we're gonna, as I mentioned last week or the Saturday podcast, I think we're gonna be involved in that funny football playoff match or math. I think we kind of shot ourselves in the foot a little too early to secure any kind of home field advantage or any
Right.
spot by that means. I think we're going to be battling for wild card. We might slide in. Going 9-3 is a tall order, but we're the team to do it. I've seen us do it before with less of a team. I've seen 11 game streaks, 13 game streaks. So, I mean, we do have the team that could produce that kind of result. I know we got a bunch of you mentioned it. We got the Packers, the Cowboys. Both those teams are looking great. But I mean, we got some duds that aren't so great. So I mean, I feel like that's not too tall of an order to do 9-3. I think we could win out if we get both sides of the ball working together. So yeah, I'm pretty hopeful that we're still going to make it. I don't think we're out of the playoffs. We were discussing last week about the number 1 seed. I just don't see us securing that. I think there's too many tiebreakers we've already lost to have that shot.
Yeah, the 3 losses we have right now are AFC losses. They're losses to contending teams that you're going to be fighting for those playoff spots. I don't think the division is out of play though either.
Right. I didn't want to mention it just now. I don't think one of the teams is going to be a problem without a coach. But we'll glance over that.
two games behind the Chargers right now. We have a chance to hang an L on them still. It didn't look like the Chargers were all that much of the better team than us when we played them earlier a couple weeks ago at home. That was another game where we had -4 in the turnover differential, and they needed a gift pass interference call on a 4th down to keep a game-winning drive alive, or else I think we win that game. So I think they could win out. Yeah, I think if they could go 1 more loss, maybe 2 max, the division's still in play. I saw one of these websites that does like 538 or one of that does percentages and probabilities. They said they had the Chiefs at a 52% chance to make the playoffs right now. So better than 50-50, but not by much. Nick, how worried are you on a scale of 1 to 10 about, being out of maybe contention for the playoffs?
Yeah, well, I'm really worried about not making the playoffs. I didn't see the team really respond how I thought they were going to. They beat Philadelphia, but the defense was still uninspired. Gave up 380 yards to Jalen Hurts, right? And then they didn't look ready. I don't know what that Bills game was. I mean, it just didn't look like that. I don't know. I've heard that they weren't taking it seriously. I don't know. They just don't look right.
How could they have not taken that game seriously?
I know. Well, I know, but my point is that to say that this is going to be some wake up call that's going to turn them around, I just think that like the Chargers game should have been that wake up call to turn them around if that was the case. So I'm really worried that they could miss the playoffs. But would it surprise me if they did turn it around and the defense got to where they were league average and we start beating teams consistently? It wouldn't surprise me either, because we started out 4-0 in the Super Bowl year, and then we went 2-4, and we were after that, and we were had a record of 6-4. And I mean, does it sound familiar? The Chiefs, everybody's figured out the Chiefs, right? They have a blueprint. It's this time it's cover 2 defense. Before it was you just have to run the ball because their run defense sucks and shorten the game. This time it's Patrick Mahomes just can't beat cover 2. And so I'm optimistic that we can. I think that we can match up and beat any of those teams if we play well. It's just the head scratcher is like, why do we not play well, like week in and week out? So
yeah, that 2-4 though last year, or the Super Bowl year, was a little bit different because Patrick Mahomes was out for 2 of those games. So
that was one of the games we won.
They went 1-1 in those games, so it's a little bit different situation. They're losing games and they can't even use injury as an excuse right now for this 2-3 stretch that they're in. So yeah, I'm not too worried about missing the playoffs. I think the division is still in play. The Chargers, they've got the worst run defense in the league right now. They just gave up a ton of points and yards to the Browns. who are a good team, but they're not some offensive juggernaut. When we played the Chargers, we had I think we had 430 yards and 33 first downs with 4 turnovers. That team still, until I see them put together a whole season where they don't blow it, you look at it, they can very easily. We're sitting here talking about the Chiefs are at 2-3 and in last place. They don't get a couple of gift calls from the refs in that Browns game and lose that game, and we don't gift them a bunch of turnovers and we win that game. Their season looks a lot different. So I'm probably 65-35 that we make the playoffs right now. I think it's 2/3 chance we get in, a third of a chance that we don't. But they can't lose any of these gimme games, though. They can't lose to Washington, which we'll talk about here in a second. They can't lose to Tennessee. They can't lose to the Bengals. They can't lose to the Broncos. They're going to have to win all the games that they're supposed to win, and probably win a couple of games that people think that they're not supposed to win. I don't know. I don't have a crystal ball. I can't see into the future. That Green Bay game is going to be a pick'em game. I don't know if Kansas City might be favored by a point or something. It's hard to say. There's a lot could happen with injuries and things like that between now and then, but they've just put themselves in a position where they've used up all of the extra bullets, and now you got to start hitting every time. There's nothing left. There's no wild cards. There's no tricks up their sleeve now. They put themselves in a position where they're going to have to damn near be perfect.
I don't think they're going to have to be perfect. I mean, I half of these turnovers that we've had this year are just so rare, and not only in how they happen, but the fact that the defense actually recovered them. I mean, it's just, it's unbelievable. I mean, I think you said we had 11 turnovers. I mean, I think last year we had like 13 total on the season or something. I'm probably blowing those stats, but I mean, we're already approaching last year's numbers in week 5. So it's just not to form to see this many turnovers. And I think, again, like I said it before, you eliminate those, we start winning.
Yeah, and I guess if you're looking for, things to, positive things, like we've played the Browns and we've played the Ravens. I think the Ravens are 4-1, the Chargers are 4-1, the Bills are 4-1, all in our, first 5 games. We've only really had one team that we've played that was like an average type team. So I think that, would I have liked to come out with a better record against those teams? Sure. But, you're playing 4 of the real contenders in the conference out of your first 5 games. And
I mean, all those, aside from maybe the Ravens and the Browns, are in the same division. But right now, I mean, all the 3 of those 4 teams are favorites to win their division.
Mm-hmm.
I would say, I think right now the Ravens have a game better than the Browns, but so even if you don't pick the team, one of those 2 is the favorite to win that division. The Bills are obviously the favorite to win their division, and right now the Chargers would be the favorite to win our division. So,
right.
that's definitely a tough schedule. And it gets easier, but the margin for error in the slip-up game, like you go on the road and lose to Washington, you can't do that now. You can't do it. It's like a cat, right? You've used up all 80 or 9 lives here in the first 5 weeks. And
right.
Now, or maybe 7, and you got 1 more life left. It's a video game, right? Where you've used up all but 2 of your lives in the first 2 or 3 levels. And if you want to beat the game, now you got to play damn near flawless the rest of the way down. But they've got number 15, and we all know he's capable of doing that. This Washington game, the WTF-WFT game.
Did I misspell it? Whoops.
It's on the road. The Chiefs, I haven't looked at the line on that game. I probably should have, but I would think that they're the favorite. Washington's defense has not looked as good as people thought as their defense was. I mean, they rode their defense right to the division championship basically last year because they were just plain Jane boring on offense. And we're going back from like Alex Smith to Heineke or however you hell you say that guy's name. But our defense has shown that we can make anybody look like the 88 49ers. So Nick, how you feel about this Washington game? What do you think?
Yeah, our defense has been handing out the you get a Hall of Fame performance, tokens. So I mean, I think we're going to win. I'm not worried about this game. I think that we have the better football team. We're more talented, right? You're talking about Mahomes versus Heineke. So,
I mean, yeah, of course, we're probably all going to pick the Chiefs to win this. My only big concern about this game, really, if we're not taking the Bills seriously, I really hope that we're taking this team seriously. Just a little bit more if we didn't learn anything from last week. I would pick us all day regardless, but who knows now? I got every pick wrong on Saturday as far as AFC teams go. So
somebody picked the Raiders to win. And he's wearing black today.
You also picked the Broncos to win. If I
know
correctly.
I missed every AFC pick. I picked two of our rivals. I did not have a good showing on Saturday.
Hey man, it's okay. Like it's to Chiefs form this year.
Yeah, it's right in line.
No, I don't know. I think that we're just the better team, but yeah, it does worry me, right? I'm always worried when we have our defense giving up, the most points to start a season, and they start having to take out actual paper records to check these fucking stats as opposed to using the internet. They got to go back to how much did this, the Washington Joiners score in 1914 against the Boogeyman, and it's just these teams that probably don't even exist anymore. So it's worrisome, but I think we're going to win. I would pick us to win by a lot too. So.
Yeah, I just picture the NFL's got some hunchback guy with a candelabra going down into the catacombs to get the record books to see how long it's been since the defense has been as bad as the Chiefs.
I don't know if other teams fans have always have the same thing, but I always feel like that's a Chiefs stat that they're going to come up with where they're like,
oh yeah,
remember when it was we had gone the longest without having a lead since some team in the 20s that didn't exist anymore. It's just as Chiefs fans we've grown to finding these stats out, and maybe they do it for everybody, and I just watch more Chiefs stuff. But
yeah, one of my favorite Chiefs stats like that was that year we lost that playoff game to the Steelers.
I don't even bring that up.
It was the Chiefs teams that had held an opponent to no touchdowns in a playoff game were 137-1 or something like that. Wow. Way to lose the game. Yeah, no, you're right. That is just being a Chiefs fan. Other teams, I don't think have those kinds of records. But we think, Bo, that this Washington team, they scare you at all, or are you feeling pretty good? You think they're what do you think is going to happen?
They don't scare me. What scares me is us handing the game to them. We scare me. The Chiefs kind of scare me. I'm just worried about fluke turnovers, stuff that's kind of out of our control. I'm not really worried about Washington. I think they've scored on average somewhere 25, 26 points in all their games. I think we're a little bit above that. So I don't think they're going to outscore us by any means, but that depends on which defense shows up for us. I pick us winning. Go figure. But I hope this is a game that we do wake up and we get things firing and we see a dominant Chiefs team this week.
Yeah, I feel pretty good about this game. It's hard to say that, though. When I say that out loud and I hear myself say it, I can just picture the defense in the back of my head and having Terry McLaurin's 375 yards and 5 touchdowns or something. So let's hope to God I'm not playing against that guy in any fantasy leagues this week. he can be a game wrecker. That dude's he's really underappreciated, undervalued receiver in the NFL. It's going to be, can the Chiefs play a clean game and, like you said, Bo, not shoot ourselves in the foot and not have 4 turnovers, not have missed field goals, not have missed extra points, which I know has not been a problem here lately. But just those things like that, or it seems like those are the Chiefs are beating themselves more than other teams are beating them. This Bills game really feels to me like the first time a team came in and just beat us.
Right.
And even then, even in that game, we are a bad roughing the passer penalty taken away, a turnover that leads to a touchdown in a game that we're losing the turnover battle 4-0, away from getting the ball the chance to make it a one-score game in the fourth quarter.
Yeah.
So even that game, you could look at it and say, oh, well, the Chiefs, I mean, they kind of beat themselves a lot of ways in that contest against Buffalo. So, yeah, they've got to get right, though. This is one of those get right teams. And Dick Vermeil had one of my favorite sayings in football is keep losing teams losing. I guess we're a losing team too, though. But Washington, they've won maybe one game, I think, this year. So we're better losers than they are at this point. You look at the rosters, there really should not be much comparison to the Chiefs. And they've got to start doing something different defensively. I don't believe that the personnel that they have, and like Nick said, Spags did coordinate one of the worst defenses of all time when he was with the Saints. How much of that was talent level and roster construction and players, I don't know, because I obviously wasn't following the Saints when he was there. But you just feel like the defense has got to just get a little bit better. It can't be worse. I mean, are they gonna start having to go back to the 20s and the 30s to get records? The defense is breaking. Get Chris Jones back in there. Do whatever the hell he needs to do to get that hand fixed or wrist or whatever problem he's got going on. I'm really interested to see what this backfield looks like for the Chiefs with Williams and McKinnon getting some more of the touches.
Mm-hmm.
Stop turning the ball over, and we win a big game and can win this game, maybe win the next 2 or 3 convincingly. Everybody feels a lot better. That playoff percentage, I'm sure, will come up at that point. Any other final thoughts or anything you guys want to talk about before we jump off here? Or?
Yeah, real quick, just wanted to shout out Nick Bolton and his 7 solo tackles, dude. That guy's a rookie, crushing it for our defense. I know we've been ragging on our defense, but got some young talent coming through. Just wanted to shout out him.
Yeah, Willie Gay made a couple of nice plays where he stretched the play out and outran the guy all the way to the sideline, and it kept what looked like could have been a big gain into a minimal gain. He only played, I think, in 20% of the snaps. He's been off on injured reserve, though, to start the season, so he's probably still getting back in game shape. So, yeah, that'll be interesting to see. Nick, anything you want to touch upon or anything you want to say before we jump off here?
Yeah, just hope that some of the flashes we saw against Buffalo in the second half continue on defense. I mean, we've said it multiple times throughout the years as Chiefs fans. All we need is like a league average defense, and we'll be fine. So, I just hope to God that they can figure it out, because like Patrick Mahomes is only going to come along once in our lifetimes. We're never going to have a quarterback like this again playing for our team, and to waste years of his career because we can't put a good defense, and not even like a good defense. We can't even put a bad defense, right? Like, I think a bad defense would be okay. We just can't have like historically worst defense ever
The worst
in the NFL, and we'll be okay. So, just to waste a year of their talent, his talent, and Tyreek Hill and Travis Kelce's talent would be a big sin, that for our organization. So, I'm optimistic, but like you said, Scott, like we're kind of out of the okay, whoopsie, we screwed that up. Like, we don't have any more of those left. It's got to be business from here on out, or we're going to be, home for the playoffs.
Yeah. Yeah. That's a good point that you bring up there. you just don't have any more, like you said, you don't have any margin for error now. The backs are
Yeah.
firmly, if the backs are up against the wall, or they're firmly against the wall that now. So, but I guess we're going to jump off here. I want to thank everybody for tuning in to the Kingdom Cast. Once again, if you haven't already, hit that like or subscribe button down there at the bottom. Ring that notification bell so you know when we go live. Let's get some more people watching. I really like. I want to get some comments coming in here. I want to get some people sending us some things to talk about, and we want to know what everybody else thinks out there in the kingdom. Don't forget to follow us on our other social media platforms. All of them are at the Kingdom Cast: Twitter, Instagram, Twitch. I think Bo's got a Facebook page going for us there, so he's kind of managing some of that stuff, and I'm handling some of the other things. Interact with us on our polls. Let us know what you think. I think maybe we start getting some guests on too. Maybe we can find some other people that got like cool Chiefs talent or something like that. Get some more of the kingdom, because this show is all about the kingdom. It ain't about just Bo and Nick and myself here. I mean, I know we're good looking, and I know we know a lot about football, but we don't know everything. So let's get some more viewers. Let's get some more people commenting in, join us on the show. And until then, until this Sunday coming up, let's go Chiefs!
Go Chiefs!